I'm going to go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Camarillo Sanitary District to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Secretary Tennyson,
Present.
Director Kildee,
Yes.
Director Martinez Bravo,
Here.
Director Santangelo,
I'm going to go ahead
And
and
Chair Tremblay.
call this regular meeting of the Camarillo Sanitary District to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Secretary Tennyson,
Present.
Director Kildee,
Yes.
Director Martinez Bravo,
Here.
Director Santangelo,
I'm going to go ahead
And
and
Chair Tremblay.
call this regular meeting of the Camarillo Sanitary District to order. Thank you very much. It's been an unusual day in many respects.
Secretary Tennyson,
We are going to
Present.
defer on the
Director
closed
Kildee.
session items on the agenda
Yes.
until
Director
our
Martinez Bravo,
next regular
Here.
meeting of January
Director
22.
Santangelo.
I'm going to go ahead
And Chair
and
Tremblay.
call this regular meeting of the Camarillo Sanitary. We will go ahead and accomplish the rest. Thank you very much. It's been an unusual day, Mr. City Attorney, in many respects. All right.
Secretary
We are
Tennyson,
going to no changes to the agenda on the
Director
closed
Kildee.
session.
Are
Are
there
there
any
any
public
public
comments
comments for the
Director
Camarillo
Martinez
Sanitary
Bravo.
meeting of
Director
January
Santangelo.
22? Hearing none,
And Chair Tremblay.
we have one item on the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion on consent?
Move
We'll go ahead
approval.
and accomplish
Second.
the rest. Thank you very much. A motion and a second. An unusual day, Mr. City Attorney, in many respects. All right.
Secretary
We are
Tennyson,
going
Bravo.
to no changes to the agenda. Clerk, please call the roll. Are there any public
Yes.
comments for the Camarillo
Secretary
Sanitary
Tennyson.
meeting of
Yes.
January
Director
22?
Kildee.
Hearing none.
Yes.
We have one item on the consent
Yes.
calendar. Do I hear a
Director
motion on consent?
Santangelo.
Yes.
Move approval.
And Chair Tremblay.
Yes, record will reflect that that's adopted on a 5-0 vote. We have no discussion items, no public hearings, any board or staff comments or reports for Camarillo Sanitary District. Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and we will recess or adjourn this meeting to, and the items for this agenda, Mr. City Attorney, to the next Camarillo Sanitary District regular meeting of January 22, 2025. Okay? Very good. We're adjourning to that meeting.
All right, I'd like to call the regular city council meeting for January 8th, 2025 to order. And I'd like to let the record reflect that all the council members are here. Before we start, I have an announcement that staff is recommending continuing all items on the January 8th, 2025 city council agenda to another meeting with the exception of item L, and that's the extension of the local age emergency and opening and continuing the public hearing, which is item N with the building and safety fees. I do have a blue card on that, and we'll get to you at the proper time with that. So at this particular point, after that announcement, we're going to take some public comments. And I do have one blue card and a public comment. And I'm going to ask Mary Ann Mejia if she'd like to come up to the podium and make a public comment. And Mary Ann, let's make sure the microphone is on and everything good to go. So,
Can you hear
thank
me?
you. Yes.
Okay. I'm here to speak regarding geoengineering climate manipulation. They call it, in other words, they call it, some people call it ground seeding. The UK Daily Mail says that chemical sweeps US. I think that Camarillians should be informed of to what they're spraying on us on a daily basis. They've had patents, the military has had patents that have existed way back to artificially manipulate the weather. Again, we need to know what kind of chemicals. There's a dozen states that are looking to ban them. Physicians have come forward to talk regarding this. In Tennessee, they banned them. In Mexico, they banned them, and Florida is underway to put out a bill to ban them. A lot of people are experiencing, a lot of my family members, friends, respiratory problems, joint problems, and I think they should bring we should bring this to your attention to investigate what they are spraying on us, what they're doing to our food, and some of our insects and are disappearing, some as high as 90%, and that's not good for the environment. I think we are breathing full of toxic particles that aren't making us feel good. I walk on a daily basis and I can feel it when they're chemtrailing like this, how I feel. A lot of people are having clogged arteries, again, respiratory problems, and there's a potential contamination of our food. And I just wanted to bring it to attention. I hope as we enter 2025, I hope you look into this issue. At this time, it's being done by greed, I think. A lot of people don't realize. A lot says, "Oh, how beautiful, it looks," but it's not normal. What I'm seeing is not normal. What other people are seeing isn't normal. And for physicians to come forward and say that it's bad for your respiratory, for different health issues, and they're stopping it in some states, I think we should look into that. I don't know where to start this going, but I'm coming to you to see if maybe you might know. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your comments. Would anyone else like to make any public comments at this particular time on a non-agendized item? Anyone else out there? Okay, so with that, we're going to go down to item N. I have a bit of a little discussion and a comment here. This is an advertised public hearing to consider the adoption of the
Excuse
building.
me, Mayor Kildee, we need to do the local emergency item first.
Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Sorry about that. That would be really important, wouldn't it? Okay, so is that item I? Oh, that's right in front of me. How could I miss that? Okay, so item L, extension of the local emergency. Do we have a staff report on that, Ms. Nichols or Mr. Ramirez? Who's going to give
Yes.
the staff on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll begin with slide 2. We have printed slides for you since the overhead would not be available to us today. So beginning on slide 2, California Government Code and the City Municipal Code empowers the city manager as the EOC director to proclaim the existence of a local emergency. And the city manager exercised his authority on November 7th, 2024, due to the mountain fire. On November 13th, the City Council ratified the proclamation under resolution number 2024. The declaration of a local emergency waives regulations that may hinder response and recovery efforts, allows for recovery resources, and expedites access to state and federal resources and any other appropriate federal disaster relief programs to both property owners and the city where applicable. Government Code 8630 requires the City Council review the need for continuing the local emergency at least once every 60 days until the City Council terminates the local emergency. On slide 3, I'd like to talk about what were the impacts of the mountain fire on the city jurisdiction, so properties within the city's jurisdictions. There were 4 properties that were red tagged. We talked about that essentially the next meeting that City Council met. And the red tag declares the building or structure unsafe. 5 properties were yellow tagged, indicating restricted or limited entry. 21 properties were green tagged, indicating inspected, lawful occupancy permitted. And so the initial evaluation showed a lesser number of green tagged properties, but between the time we reported to City Council and most recently, we did have some of our residents call, some property owners call, to let us know about their damage that they had to the exterior of their properties, namely in fencing or vegetation. And the reason why we want to green tag them is because they still, the inspection still allows them to occupy their property, their home, but it also allows them for any funding or resources, recovery resources that may be available because they were victims of the mountain fire. And so the green tag validates the impact. On slide 4, there were several activities, initiatives that were implemented since the mountain fire and are ongoing. Immediately, the community development director and the building official and other staff members went out on site and attempted to make personal contact with each and every property owner. City staff had compiled personnel packets for every affected property owner to immediately inform them of any necessary information and ensure that we passed on the message that we are here to help them every step of the way. We also provided information to several contacts at the Mountain Fire Workshop, as well as at last night's workshop on the debris flow. Last night was on preparing for the rains and possible debris flow. So our staff has been very active informing our community. On November 20th, the City Council approved the MOU with the county, or approved the city manager enter into an MOU with the county for a consolidated debris removal program that is now then available for all residents who were impacted. The City Council also approved the adoption of a local debris removal program. And also on November 20th, the Camarillo City Council gave the city manager authority to come up with a debris removal rebate program, which all three of those items are implemented and are in effect now. Now, we don't have any applications yet. We do know that property owners are interested in these programs, and as they work through debris removal, they will be contacting the city for assistance. But they are all aware of the resources that are available to them, adopted by the City Council. In terms of the debris, consolidated debris removal program, we do know that phase 1 that clears visible hazards has been completed. That includes our residents, our property owners within our jurisdiction. And as our residents and others enter into phase 2, that will clear all other hazardous debris. So there are still hazards out there that are existing within our community that must be removed. We received information yesterday from the county that the Debris Removal Operations Center opened today. And so we are notifying our residents of that. This office will be held at the old fire station at the airport. And property owners can meet with contractors and staff. And that is if they're interested, again, in the consolidated debris removal program, which is administered by the county. So because the fires, mountain fires impacts are ongoing and hazardous exist within our community, which may be beyond the control of local resources, and because they could be need other local equipment and facilities outside of our jurisdiction, it warrants and necessitates the extension of the proclamation of a local emergency. On the next slide, slide 5, wanted to bring your attention to an action that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors took on December 17th. The action was to approve the waiver of certain planning, building and safety, environmental health, land development services, roads and transportation permits, and fire protection district fees related to building structures damaged in the mountain fire disaster for residents of the unincorporated area. So essentially, they will be waiving their fees to help their residents rebuild. The City Council, as mentioned on November 20th, approved a rebate program for debris removal. That is in one way so far that the City Council has approved grant funding for our impacted residents. This item, when it came to our attention, we wanted to bring the item to the City Council for your direction on whether you wanted us to look further into other relief by way of waiving or reduction of permit fees. What do we anticipate this might look like? We anticipate of at least the following permits within city jurisdiction. There'll more likely be more, but it's early on. We have not conducted a full analysis. That could be done with City Council's direction, but we know that we anticipate at least 4 total rebuilds. That would include a building permit, grading permit, and zone clearing for each of those properties. We anticipate 2 fire repair permits, or 2 fire repair, which would require a rehab permit for each of those locations. 1 solar repair. We know of 1 solar repair that will be made. That would require a solar permit and an electrical permit. 2 accessory structures, which would require a rehab or reconstruction permit and a zone clearance for each of those structures. So tonight, there are two recommendations to the City Council. The first recommendation would be to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Camarillo proclaiming and affirming the continued existence of a local emergency and extending the proclamation by the city's EOC director of the existence of a local emergency in response to the mountain fire. The second recommendation is to provide staff direction on whether to return with an agenda item with information on options for the reduction or waiver of city fees related to approvals and permits for the rebuilding of structures damaged by the mountain fire. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much. At this point, is there any questions that any council members have at this particular point on this? We don't have any questions. Any public that wants to comment on this? Mr. Lowe, would you like to come up on this one, up to the podium, please? And I understand there's another item that's agendized you'd like to talk on too, but please make your comments at this particular point. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Mayor Kildee, and distinguished members of the council. Consider it a privilege to come and talk to you. I appreciate Assistant City Manager's comments. The counters directly to what I wanted to address. For those of you that don't know, my name is Al Lowe. I live at 192 Ramona Place in Camarillo. If you bear with me, I'd like to read my comments so they'll be short and concise and save time. Although I technically live in the county, my address is Camarillo, so I have always considered myself a Camarillian that lives in the city. I was well within the fire burn area during the mountain fire, as the closest home to be completely burned down was just a block away from my home. Many of you are aware that I am a building contractor by trade and had the privilege of rebuilding 5 homes during the Thomas Fire in Ventura. So I've been through the process of debris removal and meeting with insurance companies and going through the process that deals with permits. I know the council is discussing the extension of the mountain fire proclamation and the funds that the city set aside to aid victims of the fire, and I commend you for doing that. And you did it with expediency, which I really appreciated. I would encourage and plead with the council to follow suit with the county to provide relief in the form of permit fee waivers, such as building permits, expedited plan reviews, wastewater treatment systems, grading, floodplain management, and landscape plan reviews, to name just some of the items that you can provide relief for the fire victims. In closing, I would urge the council not to discriminate, and I use that word because I couldn't really find another good word, against the Camarillians just because they live on the wrong side of the street. I used to live on Camarillo Avocado Place. My side of the street was in the county, and my neighbors across the street were in the city limits. It would be a shame for one home to receive relief and the other side not to. Camarillo is a great city, and we should take care of our own, especially when we are only talking about 4 or 5 homes that need to be rebuilt completely. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to make any comments? Okay, so let's get down to some council discussions on the recommendations 1 and 2. So are there any, Mr. Tennyson?
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
Thank you. Obviously, I support recommendation number 1, and the direction I'd give staff is to come back with an item that mirrors what the county's doing for the residents just outside the city limits. As Mr. Lowe so eloquently stated, you can live across the street from neighbors that are in the county, and you're in the city, and I'd like to see them all treated equally. So I'd like to see a report back from staff and an action item on a future council agenda.
Thank you. Councilmember Tremblay, do you have a comment?
I know you're not used to me being this succinct, but I will just say ditto to Councilmember Tennyson's comments. And I'm ready to second a motion if he's willing to make it.
Any other council members have any questions at this
I'll
particular?
just keep
Okay,
it short, ditto.
please
And I
proceed.
agree. And I agree as well.
Would you like to proceed?
I think he's going to make.
Would you like to proceed?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt recommendation number 1 and include the comments towards staff to bring a future council item back to us for mirroring the county's efforts.
I
Second.
can sec.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Did you get the second on that? Would you like to take a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Tennyson,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez Bravo,
Yes.
Councilmember Santangelo,
Yes.
Councilmember Tremblay,
Yes.
and Mayor Kildee.
Yes. Okay, so that gets us down to item N, and that's the building and safety fees. This is an advertised public hearing to be considered the adoption of the building and safety fees. However, due to the power outage, this item will need to be continued. So I'm going to open the public hearing. And is there anyone that wants to address the council on this item? I do have one blue card, and that's from Mr. Al Lowe. Again, Al, I think you did want to make a comment on this, if I'm correct on that? Okay. All right, so is there anyone else that would like to make a comment on this item? Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing until a future meeting, which is going to be January 22nd, 2025.
Mayor, I think we want to keep, do we want to keep that public hearing open?
Okay, we want to keep, I'm sorry, we do want to keep the public hearing open, so any comments will be part in the agenda that's going to follow on the next meeting of January 2023. So we're going to actually keep the public comment section open until the next meeting. All
Mr.
right.
Mayor, members of the council, if I may, so just for clarification purposes, the public hearing remains open and is continued, if I understand the council correctly.
The public hearing does remain open until the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Good? Good. All right. So, closed session report by the city attorney. We didn't have any closed session, did we, tonight?
No, we'll be continuing to the next regular city council meeting.
All right. Okay, so if there's any future business to come before this meeting, we are going to adjourn until January 22nd. Thank you, everybody.